The song says, if you can make it here, you can make it anywhere.
And sure enough, this Madison native is thriving on stage and in the classroom.
I always sort of look at the city and go, I live in New York City.
Meet him Thursday on News 3 at 10. Well, when it comes to food, New York has a little Italy, a little Tokyo, Chinatown, of course, and even a little Pakistan.
And now there is a growing Little Wisco in New York. It's a group of much buzzed about restaurants that are all staffed with transplants from the Badger State. To learn more about the restaurant scene in New York, we turn to an expert in today's unique New York segment who just happens to be, wait for it, from Madison. Small world.
She walks the streets of New York with an appetite and a pen. Ruthie Young is a freelance writer and food blogger who grew up in Madison and is now based in New York City. What is it like to be a food blogger? It sounds like a very fun job.
It's very fun. It's also a lot of work because it requires some creativity, but it's great because it really gives me an opportunity to explore New York and the food scene in New York kind of on my own budget and my own time.
Why is New York City such a great restaurant city?
Well, I think it's great just because it has such a variety of options. You can find anything from inexpensive food that's really authentic to high quality, a little more pricey food that's just really delicious and hard to explain because it's so tasty.
To write about food, you need to be in the culinary capital of the world. So after graduating from the University of Wisconsin, Ruthie moved to New York. And she soon discovered so did many others from home. A lot of Madisonians here. What's going on?
It's not necessarily that there's a ton of Wisconsinite restaurateurs here, but once you start looking at the restaurants, you find a bunch of Wisconsinites and Wisconsin influences in those restaurants and just Wisconsin all around you.
And what do you think it is in Madison that translates so successfully here in New York? Is it just our farm work ethic in Wisconsin, or?
I think it is a lot of the hospitality and the down-home attitude. Wisconsin-owned restaurants, they just, in order to draw their business in and then keep their business, they really focus on just being very welcoming and open.
It's the Wisconsin culture of just being really nice to people. Everybody comes into the restaurant and they're like, people are so nice here. and I occasionally have to train those New York City professional restaurant workers like how to be that nice.
Adam Benedetto is another Madison transplant in New York. He's the general manager at Joseph Leonard, a cozy American bistro in the West Village. What's the cuisine here?
It's kind of like we do American fare with French technique.
Okay.
So you can get everything from as simple as like fried chicken, but like it'll be brined and then braised and then deep fried. So it's just like everything's really complicated.
Are you
it's
a
the most
foodie
simple
now that
thing.
you're in the restaurant business?
I've always really liked to eat.
Joseph Leonard is the flagship restaurant in the Little Wisco restaurant group, which was started by UW-Madison grad Gabe Stallman. The group has opened 4 restaurants in the last 2 years, all staffed with Wisconsin natives. So how do you go from working at Restaurant Magnus in Madison to here?
The owner of this restaurant and a lot of the people that work in our management team, we are all friends in Madison, and we worked at places like the Great Dane, Paul's Club, Cafe Momar, Restaurant Magnus, all these kinds of places. And so as Gabriel Stallman, the owner, keeps opening them, more and more Wisconsinites come to town and wind up working for him.
How does the restaurant scene here differ than Madison?
It's actually, they're very competitive.
Really?
The Madison restaurant scene is one that I fell in love with when I was living there, and it's something that definitely helped me understand the culture here because people see each other, what other restaurateurs are doing, and they're competitive in the sense of like, I want to have more people at my restaurant, and I want to create more interesting food items, and I want to blow people's minds with great wine lists. And so you have that in Madison. Yeah.
Who is Joseph Leonard, by the way?
It's the first name of the 2 grandfathers of the owner. So Joseph is one grandfather and Leonard is the other. And all the portraits in the restaurant are grandfathers of the investors. So it's kind of a real family feel here.
You get to check out a lot of great restaurants.
Yes, I do. I've seen so many. Just yesterday, actually, I went to a restaurant in the basement of a Hindu temple in Queens.
Only in New York.
Right.
Yeah, I won't find that in Madison.
No.
Ruthie, thanks.
Well, you might.
You might.
Ruthie's blog, by the way, is called the-tasty-truth.com, my bona fide pursuit of a delicious life.
And Joseph Leonard is one of 4 restaurants in the Little Wisco group. The others are Jeffrey's Grocery, that's a raw bar, Perla, a classic Italian restaurant, and Chez Sardine, a sushi and Japanese tapa restaurant. And if you go to Leonard Joseph's, get the ham hock.
Oh, what, the pork, wasn't it?
Yeah, the pork, the hock.
Whatever, just order the hock. It's delicious.
It's delicious.